Hello everyone, this is Anthony Tharp. June 8th, 2023, 4:44 p.m. Just thought I'd make a quick couple of comments on issues that's going on in the news. I've been on YouTube checking out a lot of the bloggers that's there that are commenting on what's going on in Jamaica, and a couple of them I had to comment on, hence the reason I'm here. What I want to say, first of all, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen. I don't know how many people I'm reaching. I'm hoping that you'll share and have other persons share this video and the previous videos, because I'm finding that my previous videos made and shared with you guys pretty much are on point, and in fact will remain current until the issues are solved. And I say that because I was listening to is it the Maverick this morning, this afternoon. I saw he made a comment and he was talking about Mr. Bolt and Mr. Bolt's money, and there were a couple other bloggers or sites that were talking about Mr. Bolt and his money and the imminent possibility of him going public or speaking to the press, the international press, or that's the alleged story that's being put out there, and that is coming from his attorneys. In fact, the Maverick quoted from, I think, was one of those newspapers. Could have been the Gleaner, I'm not sure. I don't want to say 100%, but he did cite an article and read a portion of the article that Mr. Bolt was getting more or less tired of what's going on, and as a result he may have no option but to speak to the international press. Now, in the Maverick's commentary, he mentioned that he was privy to peeping over a fence and hearing stories that Mr. Bolt was asked not to speak to the international press or keep quiet about what's going on, because with such a status that he carries and the platform he has, then it would give Jamaica a really, really bad name. I almost chuckled when I heard it say that. True, Mr. Bolt has a big platform. However, I don't understand why Mr. Bolt or Usain Bolt would not speak to the press and get the word out. And I don't see how that could ruin Jamaica's reputation, which is what he was suggesting, that if Mr. Bolt got out there, and I'm suggesting that my understanding is that he's talking about calls from the present administration, or I could have been wrong, my assumption could have been wrong, but somebody who believes that Mr. Bolt's experience, and if he spoke about it in the international press or did interviews, it would somehow have affect us negatively. In fact, it would further damage our reputation. And I had to, I say, you see me laughing when I heard that. It's like a comedic strip. Now, anybody that's in Jamaica or lives abroad and has been listening to the news and current affairs on a lot of these bloggers' sites would say anybody who believes that nonsense is crazy. And in fact, I'll encourage people to go back to my videos where I mentioned and talked about what had happened to Mr. Bolt and SSL. And in my videos, in one video, I remember specifically stating that if I were Mr. Bolt, I would take a lawsuit out instantaneously. And if there were any kind of excuse on the part of his attorneys not to act in accordance to that lawsuit or taking immediate action, then he'd be wasting his time. And I did infer that if his attorneys were doing that, they're wasting his time and dragging the matter out so they could make money off him. So this commentary in the paper that Usain Bolt's attorney is now coming out and say, oh, well, we want to find out what's going on. We talk to government with this, with that. And therefore, Mr. Bolt is now upset. He doesn't trust this. He doesn't trust the system, or he doesn't trust these guys. I'm paraphrasing. Who called and said, don't talk. Just sit quietly and we're on top of it. We're going to work it out. Now, I'm no genius, but I have said in past videos and comments that this country is amongst the most corrupt in the world. And I'm not saying anything that people don't know, because it's been in the international press. Because I'm not even relying on the local press here. The international press has dubbed Jamaica one of the most corrupt places on the earth. And it's not only the international press, it's international governments, it's international agencies that regulate and monitor corruption. Jamaica is right up there. So this nonsense about if Mr. Bolt had talked about what was going on, spoken about what was going up out in terms of his money and SSL, then somehow he'd be undermining Jamaica's standing. Jamaica has no standing when it comes to that. And that's been emphasized over the last couple of months or couple of weeks with what this present government is doing, Andrew Holness's government is doing. And it's almost shocking that people you elect to represent your people, to go in and work for our people, the Jamaican people, would be so brazen to go in there and rip off the country. And then when the Jamaican people who put them in there are saying, no, we don't want this, it's not going to happen, roll it back. I'm talking about the salaries and the various benefits for all these various entities and groups that are amongst the classified corrupt and non-functioning. And like most people who have commented on the salary that I've seen on YouTube, it's unanimous that everybody knows that there's mass corruption in the press, in the courts, in government, and yet people are still wondering why is it that the current government and Andrew Holness's administration and his ministers, and now I hear quote unquote, and I'm saying allegedly, Lisa Hanna is getting in there and talking about increased salary and who deserves what and all of that. I've never commented anything on Miss Hanna's viewpoints, but the point is, even if she believed that ministers or government should get increased salary because of the actions they took and the inappropriateness of how they went about it, and after the Jamaican people voiced their mass objection, then there is no issue or debate. There's nothing to debate about what you should be getting or not getting. The Jamaican people say at this point in time, you don't deserve any kind of increases. None of you. At this point in time, any increases that was sanctioned by you, self-serving you, who should be working for the Jamaican people, and you go in there, you overtax the Jamaican people who are already suffering and struggling just to increase your salary and pay for it. And at this point in time, there should be no issue or argument or rebuttal from anybody in government about this increase in salary. The people say they don't want it, you don't deserve it, and we're not going to sit quietly while you try to rip us off or rip off the country, because that's what you're doing. And I've said this nonsense about comparing private industry and private corporations, international agencies and other government is nonsense. It is illogical, it makes no sense, and it's offensive. And you should come out, Miss Anna, and apologize to the Jamaican people for even mentioning that kind of logic, or going into some kind of logic that you think justifies why these people should get. I don't know if that includes you, because I guess you're still a minister of government, because You say you're not going to put yourself back out there, but the fact is you should not come out and made any kind of statement other than I support the Jamaican people and their decisions. And if you want a general consensus from the Jamaican people, read the salaries, have a general election, let the people vote on it in a general election. And so Mr. Holness, rather than going through this justification or trying to justify what cannot be justified, you're keeping people hostage. That's what you're doing to the Jamaican people, because you feel you're in a position to keep Jamaicans hostage, because you're so damn important and you're so damn relevant and so damn essential to the survival of Jamaica that you're going to get in there, your ministers are going to get in there and demand, not request, demand and serve yourself a platter of money that you don't deserve because you think you're indispensable. Guess what? None of you in there are indispensable. We don't need you. There are thousands of people out there who are qualified and willing to get in there and serve the Jamaican people. I'm pretty sure of that. So this whole idea that you're out there, all of you out there, trying to justify this money, the only way you can justify it is if you get a general consensus or a mandate from the Jamaican people to say, yeah, well, go ahead and give yourself the increase. But that can only be done if you do it in a general election. So this dodging the electorate by not setting up a general election is another basis for people to be upset. Why are you not trying to get an election done so we can tell you exactly what we feel, how we feel, and what you must do with yourself, whether stay in government or move on? And I guess the general consensus from all I've heard is that you should move on. Put it to the people, put it in a vote, and let's vote on it, because that's the only way anybody can justify saying you're going to get this money, you're going to get it legitimately. If that's not done, then you're defrauding the nation. Anybody who takes that money is defrauding the nation, because again, the mandate from the people that's voiced and in the public domain right now is that you guys don't deserve this money, you shouldn't take the money, needs to be rolled back. The other major issue, which I touched on yesterday, is this whole thing about electoral reform. And I called out a couple of people who were out there talking, doing all this talking, and no action, nothing to make a difference. I'm like, if you live in Jamaica and you're subject to a Jamaican administration, government, you're subject to taxation, you're subject to a lot of negative issues that have been raised and will continue to be raised until this country is on a path of success. And right now, it's not. If you want to make a difference, then start standing up and speaking out. And for those of you who are more outspoken and aggressive about this thing and really want to do something about it, don't just talk. Come up with solutions. Because a lot of the people who are out there hearing all of this, they're not, I don't want to say astute enough, but they don't think they can come up with solutions. But a vast majority of people in this country are intelligent people and can think. And believe it or not, they must participate in any decision about this country's future. And so, touching on the whole salary thing where I mentioned Miss Hannah or Mr. Holness and this desire to lap on and hang on to money that they don't deserve, can also be answered in a constitutional way by us letting people participate in the process of tweaking this constitution, of changing it, or amending it, whichever adjective we want to use, but let people participate. The more minds we have thinking about it, the more we can come up with solutions. And one of the things I've said in the past is that every aspect of government life, their duties and responsibilities must be detailed in the Constitution. So when we have a minister of agriculture being selected, we define exactly what the Minister of Agriculture is about in the Constitution. His duties, his responsibilities. Because what happens then is that when he gets in there, he knows what he's supposed to be doing. We know what to monitor, what to look for. And we don't have them crossing over into other ministries. And if he can't function as a minister in that position, then that's when you get rid of them. That's when he resigns. That's when he leaves, because we have no confidence in him. And I've said in the past, if you look at other administrations around the world, if the prime minister doesn't have the confidence of his ministers or the other members of his party in government, then no confidence vote, they resign. So if we put a minister in place for agriculture, then if he can't function, resign. We have no confidence in him, and we won't throw him over to Ministry of Health, because we don't know if he doesn't function over here, why should he function over there? That's the first thing. You don't run a corporation and have a bad person working for you, underperforming in your private corporation, and when that person performs badly over there, you just simply move him over to another department, pay him increased salary, and then keep him there until your business crashes. No, you get rid of that person. And so if we have a definition of exactly what a Minister of Agriculture is supposed to do and what he's entitled to, then when he's elected, then that's where he goes. If he can't function or perform, resign, and we have another by-election and bring somebody in place. Now that's simply saying we should have persons who want to serve the government in a certain capacity. Let's say somebody has talent and skills in agriculture and they feel they can contribute to agriculture in Jamaica, then that's the persons who run for that specific ministry. So we won't have no government prime minister going in there and selecting somebody. We have people actually running office for that specific position. So if it's going to be agriculture that you're interested in, that's what you run for. You run against people who have an interest in agriculture, who can prove themselves that they're going to deliver in that ministry and get the vote from the people. If it doesn't perform, out. We have a by-election. We don't have to wait on a general election, and so we get rid of and solve that problem. Same thing goes for the Prime Minister's office, and if I guess we won't have a prime minister again, and therefore the office of presidency, if it's a republic, has to be won in a general election. So it serves the very purpose that I'm saying, is that just like how the president has to run for his position, for example in the US, and anybody who wants to run for that position just slates themselves in an election for presidency, so we do it for all the other ministries. So in the Constitution, we are going to break it down to the kind of ministries we want and have, and their responsibilities. And each of those ministries are focused on that area of expertise. Again, if they don't function, we get rid of them. In other words, as I've said, the Constitution should detail point for point how we want this country to run, how we want it to be organized, how we're going to structure reward and penalties. A person doesn't perform, we don't increase their salary and just transfer them to another ministry. Out the door. That's it. So the whole corruption thing can be fixed easily in this country if we apply ourselves, because now it becomes the decision of the people to decide on who gets into office, who gets into which ministry. If they don't perform, it's automatically dismissal, resignation or dismissal, and therefore we fill that position during the tenure of before another general election with a by-election, and put that person in place to serve for a specific period of time. Hope you see the logic there. It's a stepwise, logical way to get the country organized. We don't have people just being tossed in and out of ministries that are incompetent and therefore when they get to that ministry, it's a whole new ball game, a start over, a remake, a retake on something that should be an ongoing business. We don't have the ministry's business being upset by a general election, because again, if this minister doesn't perform during the tenure of his office, we have a by-election, and that person who is elected runs for that period of time, whether it's 5 years, and so we don't have to wait on general elections, which is a problem as it stands, because that's why we have this issue going now. We have a prime minister and a government in office. They're there for 5 years, and if we don't vote them out during the next election, which is being held up by the very same party, then we're going to have this ongoing problems and evolve our democracy into a dictatorship, just like how they did in China, just like how I think the gentleman in Belize, is it Belize? Or Nicaragua, I think he just made changes to the constitution randomly to be so he could be re-elected and take these long tenures in government. And if you're not performing, why are you going to be in government for 10, 20 years? And you see, what I'm suggesting, and I'm saying suggesting, because it's not about me. It's not about Jack over there or Tom or Dick or whatever. It's about everybody participating. If you love the idea that I'm saying, build on it, expound on it, come up with strategies to ensure that the suggestion isn't just put in place and we don't have concrete, tight regulations around it to make sure it works. That goes to the other part of what I'm saying, and I was saying yesterday to a lot of bloggers. Let's do something. Let's do something about this whole election reform and the idea that only a few people in government are now sitting and deciding what this new constitution should hold. I don't think we should have people we elect in office be the only ones to decide what gets there and then force a constitution on us and we have to accept that constitution. No, we should have a structure in place prior to any kind of decision or general consensus on what goes into the constitution. A structure, because it's going to come out of meetings from the village to the town to the parish to central government. All people in a village, or as many voting people in a village who want to participate, you encourage them. You have a campaign, you tell them to come out, go to the schools, sit down, discuss these things, let them put their ideas on paper, submit it to a committee that reviews parish for parish the submissions, and the general consensus in those submissions is what's discussed amongst the nation, because we're going to put everything out there and have a time when people can vote on it. And so we don't even need a general election. People have cell phones. Set up something with the companies that offer cell services and have people vote on the issues. And I don't think these companies are going to mind, because it's going to make sure that they're working within a democracy, that they function as a company and their profitability is protected, because now they know that this is what we're going to do going forward, and everybody is in line. Or not everybody, the vast majority of people. And we can't have a reforming of the Constitution without what you call it now, a referendum, where I think it requires 2/3 of the majority of people who are the voting public have to vote. So if we don't start rallying people from now, that 2/3 majority will never come out to vote. And my thinking is, if we don't have a 2/3 majority, and the Constitution clearly states that, or if it's not that, it's close to that, that if we have that kind of thing, we'll never have a change, because no mandate will be put forward that's acceptable under the current constitution. So we have to have at least 2/3 majority voting in a general election to change the change the constitution. I don't know, they might just pull this stunt and we're going to interpret it to mean 2/3 of the persons who vote. Nah. It's 2/3 the majority of the people who are qualified to vote. So we have to have a campaign of not only getting people to participate and educate them regarding that they must participate in this discussion around the Constitution, but they too must now be a part of that 2/3 majority for this new Constitution to have effect. Other than that, we're going to be stuck with the same old Constitution, and I don't mind being stuck with it until we have a general consensus from the people and not from persons we know who are in government that are corrupt. The world has labeled Jamaica as amongst the most corrupt countries on the planet. Why are we going to have the same people there making decisions about our Constitution? Self-serving decisions about our Constitution. So I had to comment on that again. And what I'm suggesting is that I don't know which blogger out there or wants to do the initiative, but start a petition. Get a petition online and drive everybody who is online in the diaspora to sign that petition. After we've stuck in that petition what we expect, what we want, and what we demand, the things that we need to happen before we can have any consensus or election or referendum on an election. So a petition online where all of us can go there and sign that petition. So again, I think it's important if we want to show that we are willing to commit to do something that makes a difference. Other than that, it's just talk. And we can't continue to put up with the nonsense that's going on in government. Because I don't know if people don't realize it, but after all these things that have been happening and all the discussions around the salary, these people are brazen enough to still sit there and try to con the Jamaican people. In fact, not con the Jamaican people. Dictate to the Jamaican people that, guess what? We're going to take this money. No matter what you say, we're going to take this money. And that in itself is an issue. I am for a lawsuit against the government progressing with this constitutional discussion if a structure isn't put in place for the general public, each individual in each village who has a legal right under this current constitution to participate in what happens in this country. I am willing to put forward the idea that we need to sue a class action lawsuit barring government from putting forward any government decision on constitutional reform and how it should be reformed without the people having a discussion around it, because the government is elected by the people. They are elected to operate on the representation of the people and not what they say or what they want, but what the people want. That's why they're there. So I am prepared to stand behind such a lawsuit. And then you might say, well, the lawsuit is going to the very corrupt that we're talking about. Guess what? If it goes, we know it's going to go into, but not everybody in there is corrupt. But if we go in there and it lands in front of a bunch of corrupt people who are going to lean on the side of government, then we take it beyond that. We take it to international courts. We file papers in international courts to discuss what this government is doing and the abuse and expose the corruption further. But we don't stop. We fight it. And just like I had said in previous videos, and I'm saying it to Mr. Bolt again, even going to the international press and talking about it now, certainly do it. I am all for it, because I've been out there trying to get this whole corruption thing exposed so we can clean it up. If we don't expose it and point fingers to the people who are involved, we can't clean it up. So you need to get out there and refresh people's memories about how you were ripped off. But I would submit that it's not just about you. It's about the people, other 9,000 people. It's about the other 4 million people that are on this island or in the island of Jamaica. It's about the other 3 point something, if not 4 million, if not more, Jamaicans who are outside in the diaspora, who are being ripped off by these people through corruption and the cover-up. Because I'll say to you again, I have never seen in Jamaica where any minister of government has faced prosecution under any level of corruption. None. I know they were talking about Mr. Reid, Royal Reid, and but as I said, I have never seen it. And I've been around for a while, and this country has been around for, well, more than 50 years as an independent nation. And yet, with all the corruption we know about, nobody is going to jail. How many people you know has gotten locked up in government for corruption? How many people that work in the judiciary has been taken to jail or charged with corruption? And who's investigating them anyway? Not the Integrity Commission. Because the Integrity Commission, as far as I know, and I heard, I think it was Mr. Carlos Jamaica TV, and people should go to Carlos's Jamaica TV and listen to him. He's one of the people who are most passionate about fixing the issue, exposing the crimes that's going on. And I'm saying to him, Carlos, you're not out there by yourself. We're right there. You have a whole bunch of people out there. What I'm encouraging you to do is to call on these people to stop just listening and acting. Start writing to the press. Write to the Jamaica Chambers, American Chamber of Commerces throughout the United States. I think each city has one of them where we linked the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce, or Jamaicans living in the diaspora with business are connected to Chamber of Commerces in these cities. In Florida here, in Fort Lauderdale. Connect and pressure those agencies to stop being quiet and allowing the Jamaica government to marshal over the people and their rights, and we won't cooperate with them or cooperate with any entity there until they start behaving like a civilized government. A decent, honest, civilized government that honors what the people want. So we must start pressuring the Chamber of Commerces in the international arena. We must start pressuring businesses, Jamaican businesses in the diaspora, or invite them to be aware of what's going on and stand up, start speaking out. We have a ton of businesses in in Florida, for example, and the United States that are heavily vested in Jamaica with support dollars for various things. Have those people put pressure on the agencies that they support so that we can start seeing real action. So if the ordinary person is not willing to put themselves out there, speak to corporate entities, speak to businesses here. Let's form a committee here in Florida, in the United States. Let's not talk about the diaspora organization. That's a waste of time. And I've said it before, that they have some good people in there, but good people who sit there and just allow this to happen and they keep their mouths shut are just as bad as the ones who are doing nothing. So we have this diaspora organization. One is literally run by the government of Jamaica. So we're not going to get anything out of that. Then we have another one, I think it's the Northeast. And now we have people in there who have an interest in what's going on in Jamaica. But they're quiet as well. We have one in the Southeast. But they're quiet. I think we have in Atlanta, we have in Washington, we have all over. But what are they doing? Nothing. Every year they have this big conference in Jamaica. People go down there, do all this talking, this feel-good talking, dress-good talking, and nothing comes of it. Because they are committed to sitting there and allowing the government to continue to undermine the progress of the country. And if you're serious about making a difference, leaving a legacy, then stand up. So I'm saying to all you bloggers, don't just talk for people out there here and agree and sit there silently. Start pressuring these businesses these organizations, every professional that's registered in Florida. Find out which organizations they're connected to. Find out every attorneys, all the attorneys we have in Florida, all the accountants, all the businesses, and start reaching out to them and say, listen, we need to form a united front, especially with the corruption in the courts, with corruption in government, and more significantly, the way to solve it is to have people focus on this reform, this new constitution that will dictate all the terms of engagement for these people so we can manage and control the corruption. So reaching out, I don't think that's too much to ask, especially people who are organizers. You don't have to be a blogger. Organize. Contact those bloggers and let's pull everybody into one united forum to deal with these issues. So rather than everybody having their own individual podcasts and broadcasts, pull together, unite, and do 1 or 2 a month together and really reach out to a bunch of people to make a difference. Because that's how we're going to get this thing done. Because other than that, we're just talking. And the government, from as far as I'm concerned, and from what any and everybody can see, they don't care. They don't give a hoot about what you're saying as a Jamaican citizen, who they should be working for. They don't care. They're telling you, you don't matter. You as a Jamaican have no say in your country because we are dictating what happens here. And if you don't believe us, keep talking. Because you keep talking, you don't see anything happening. You tell me now, all this talk that's been going on for weeks and weeks and weeks, is anything happening? No. They're just going about their business the way they were going about it in the first place. They have their little meetings, and they have a town hall meeting, and they sit there and dictate to people what is going to happen with this constitutional reform, what is going to happen to this, what is going to happen to that, and no real input. A town hall meeting is not a place where people can really contribute to serious constitutional reform. You have to have committees or people sitting down, engaging in discussions, and some of those discussions might become even heated, but that's what you want. You want people to engage, really feel they're a part of this country, and therefore they must be represented in the constitution. Until that's done, we're playing independent. We're playing an independent nation. And it's really offensive to people like myself who really want to see progress for this country. I heard a maverick say that if he were Mr. Bolt and at Mr. Bolt's level of success, he probably would be in Hollywood making movies. And I understand what he was saying. Not that he would do anything different from Mr. Bolt, in truth and in fact. But when you look at what he was saying Mr. Bolt doesn't have to be in Jamaica, didn't have to be in Jamaica, didn't have to support the economy of Jamaica by putting his money in an investment house in Jamaica. He could have had it all over the place. And he could have lost his money if he put it elsewhere too. But not in such a brazen way. But I think what the maverick was saying is that people like Mr. Bolt, and I say like Mr. Bolt because I want to emphasize the fact that there are hundreds of thousands of people out there who are very, very successful, who are Jamaicans, who have an interest in Jamaica, who don't have to pay attention to Jamaica. They don't have to put one dime in Jamaica. They don't have to listen to one iota that's coming out of the country, because they don't need to go back to Jamaica. They can live anywhere in the world, live the best life possible, where they can drive and not have to worry about being ripped off by the very government, being set up by the very government, by being deprived of your rights and your property by a court filled with corrupt judges. They can do that. We can do that. But we've chosen to pay attention to Jamaica because we want to see more happening to this country. So what Mr. the Maverick was saying, I am endorsing. There are people out there, Jamaicans, like Mr. Bolt, who don't have to be in Jamaica. Don't have to spend any money in Jamaica. Don't have to spend any time in Jamaica. But they're doing it. And therefore, that's important. What they have to say is significant. It's important. What they have to do is also significant because they keep sending money to Jamaica. And if it wasn't for remittances coming from abroad, Jamaica would have collapsed a long time ago. That's not some subjective statement coming from me. That's a fact. Jamaica would have collapsed a long time ago. Now, Jamaica can become a very successful country if we get rid of the corrupt and the corruption that's going on. And we need to be conscious and aware of that. And I say, I don't know how Jamaicans at home can be so comfortable in their skin by just ignoring all the atrocities that's going on in Jamaica in terms of the crime, which is related to corruption, which is related to poverty, which is related to miseducation. All of that contributing to crime. Corruption, one of the major elements contributing to the other criminal activities. Without corruption, we wouldn't have all these gangs out there. You're in a country where you have, let's say, 3 million people. I say it's probably more. The level of violence that's going on is unbelievable, but unacceptable. And it's happening, like I mentioned in my previous video yesterday. All that's happening in Jamaica is happening because the Jamaican people, especially the Jamaican people at home, refuse to do anything about it. And I'm not talking about go protest by burning down place or block road and all of that. No. Mr. Stevens, they had a sit-in the other day. It was suggested. Somebody suggested a sit-in, and yeah, I think that was a good thing because some people did. It wasn't in mass, but it sent a message that there are really people out there who are committed to taking action. But we can find other ways, as I said, to stop this thing from escalating or snowballing into something that really kills this country. If we don't stop the corruption, we don't stop politicians like the current prime minister we have, who feels he can dictate to the country whatever he wants, play games with the country's politics, play games with law enforcement, because this whole thing about the Integrity Commission sorry, is another issue that we have to address. How can you have politicians going in there and dictating or blocking an agency that's there to monitor them, oversight for them, and block them from telling the Jamaican people what's going on? And in what kind of country do you have the politicians dictating to people what they can hear and what they can't hear? You know what kind of country? You're talking about Russia, Putin. You're talking about China. You're talking about Iran. You're talking about Syria. You're talking about brutal dictators around the world who continue to abuse their people's rights. That's what we're breeding or producing in Jamaica now with this kind of government, the actions they've taken, and the negligence on the part of Jamaicans who sit there and allow it. Don't tell me that 63 people can tell 3 million people that I am going to dictate to you, that I'm going to take this money and there's nothing you can do about it, and the Jamaican people just accept it. As I said, you're running a business. No staff of yours could come into your office and say, we're going to take $50 more this week on our pay, and you can't do a damn thing about it. I'm pretty sure you understand that that doesn't happen in private industry. I'm pretty sure you know that people who don't produce in private industry get fired, they get canned, they get the pink slip, call it what you will. That's what happens. You don't reward them and then leave them there and allow them to dictate to you the terms of their engagement and your rights. Do you understand that the money that these people are getting are your money? I'm talking about Jamaicans who are abroad, or Jamaicans who spend money in Jamaica. Do you understand? Do you really understand that these people are taking your money after you employed them and telling you what you're going to get, what you're not going to get, and don't even smile, because if you smile, we're going to do it, we're going to take more. That's what they're saying. So anyway, had to comment after I heard about Mr. Bolt and the whole thing about Mr. Bolt again. I did say in my previous videos, Mr. Bolt, you're wasting your time by thinking government is going to help you to resolve this issue. This is not a government issue. The government can have law enforcement investigate the fraud and lock those people up who defrauded you. The government can't give you back any money. I've said that. Because one, it would set a precedence that undermines what we call capitalism and the free market system, where people invest their money and they lose it and expect government to give them back the money. No. People invest their money in an enterprise, and that enterprise goes south and you lose, then guess what? If the people who are running those enterprises lost the money, genuinely, honestly lost the money because of market factors and market forces and market indicators didn't work the way it should be, then those people are not entitled to a refund. In your case, apparently somebody ripped you off. Somebody ripped off 9,000 odd people. But the rip off is, and I want you to understand, ripping you off means that somebody take your money and gone with it. Government is not responsible for finding that money and giving it back to you. Government is out there to catch these people, and if they have any of your money left, then they try to get some and satisfy everybody, a percentage back to everybody who lost money. That means they might prosecute them and sell the assets, whatever assets this place might have, and in fact pay back some money to people. You might get back some of your money, you might get back any at all, or you might get back a little, and that goes for everybody. So this whole idea, as I've said, and I keep saying, I said it to you before, I said it out there to the public, and I stated it, that if your attorneys are playing another game, your attorneys are not working in your best interest by causing these delays. You should have sued, and not only sued the company. What you needed to do was sue each of those directors directly. And why I said that? Because each of those directors who sat on the board sat there, whether they knew it or not, they're negligent. They knew stuff wasn't going down correctly. They didn't do anything. They didn't do anything with law enforcement to fix it. So they're part of the fraud. So that gives you the basis to sue each of those directors directly for being complicit in the fraud. So this whole idea that you're suing SSL and waiting on government, I have said you're wasting your time. Your attorneys are wasting your time and your money. And this idea now going to international press, yes, go to international press when you file a lawsuit and you say you sued each of these directors, go after their assets, file a lawsuit, have your attorneys file for an injunction and freeze all the assets wherever it is around the world until the matter is resolved. This way you're protecting your interest. And if you don't want to do it alone, pull in them 9,000 people and tell them to put up $1, do a class action, and everybody sue to lock down on their assets. Now, from an individual perspective, if you do it on your own, you're going on your own, that's fine. You have the means to go after them. Go after them internationally. Find attorneys in the US who will go after crooked politicians internationally. Go after crooked businesses internationally and seize their assets in a lawsuit. I'm pretty sure half them people are those people who are on the board. They have assets in the US. They have property in the US. They have property elsewhere. Sue and go after those assets. Don't sit there and let them play you like some chump. Because that's what they're doing. Talking to you about talk to government. Talk to government about what? Sue government. That's what you do. This nonsense about talking to government. The very people who went in and took out their money and left the people's money there. losing the people's money, securing their own. You think they're going to look about saving your butt? And this is no disrespect, Mr. Bolt, but you're an intelligent person. And I said it. Maybe you didn't hear my videos, see my videos. But I've heard other people out there talking, and everybody's sitting waiting. I am telling you, from my experience, the only way you can protect yourself is filing multiple lawsuits if you can and if you have to against these people. The entire board of directors, FSC, the law says these people cannot be sued if they're performing their duties. Now, what does that mean? If they're sitting there and allowing entities to function outside the law, they're not performing their duties. At that point, they become personally liable. And you know the importance of that is when you start holding people like that accountable, it means the future workers or future corporate officers who go into entities like that, they are going to perform because they know they have the possibility of losing their assets and even going to prison for being negligent. Start thinking like a sophisticated person. And I'm saying it to your attorneys. If your attorneys keep playing these games that, oh, this is how we function in Jamaica, fire their asses. Because the way they function in Jamaica is for attorneys to drag your matters out. The only attorneys that are going to be working for you are attorneys who are dedicated to find out what your matter is about, take action, sue the people who are causing this painful experience for you and 1,000 other people in Jamaica, because this whole thing is affecting Jamaica psychologically. And if it affects the Jamaicans all over the planet, it's going to affect the Jamaican economy. So maybe attorneys are just slow in understanding what they need to do. I'm saying again, your attorneys need to sue the corporate officers of each of these entities. SSL, FSC, sue all the board members. Because when you start doing that, you're also helping the nation. And this whole idea that people telling you don't talk about it, that's when you talk about it. Talking about it is going to help to clean up the corruption in Jamaica, not keeping quiet. Talking about it and taking action is what's going to fix Jamaica and ensure that the rest of your investments here don't go south. Because I know you're putting up a lot of buildings and you have money invested in other areas, but if you don't protect those things, you can lose off them as well. When the country faces severe economic issues and we fall into the trap of Haiti, what do you think will happen to your nice buildings that you're putting up? You think anybody will be able to pay the rent or buy the units? You think people will be able to go downtown and shop, or uptown where you have your buildings and shop? Because the country is in chaos. Look at Haiti. I don't know why you think we're so far from Haiti. And this is reaching out to every Jamaican here and abroad. You need to start protecting your country. Do class action lawsuits against these people. Again, if the members or people at the FSC were not doing their jobs in according to the law, it means they were negligent. And the other thing I must point out is, why is the Attorney General of Jamaica taking taxpayers' money to defend people who are involved in criminal activity and corruption? Why? It seems counterintuitive to me. Why are we having the Jamaican people who have the Jamaican public prosecutor or the DPP's office prosecuting these people for a crime, and then the very the very government that should be protecting your interests is taking your tax dollars to provide defense for these corrupt people that the government agency, the DPP's office, is prosecuting. Are we fools? Do we lack intelligence? Don't you see something is wrong there? Did any government agency in the United States put up $1 to protect Mr. Trump or any other politicians that's charged for a crime and defending them? No, they find their own attorneys and go to court. And what you do, we suspend them until the matters are resolved. That you need to put in the Constitution. If any public official, government official, elected or otherwise, is involved in criminal activity and is being prosecuted for that criminal activity, no responsibilities in those departments of government until the matter is resolved. He's automatically suspended until the matter is resolved. Just like how here, when a cop commits a crime or is suspected of committing a crime, what the first thing people demand? Suspension without pay and then dismissal depending on the charge. So all the things we need to do and put in place is right in front of us. It's happening all over the place. But I think people judge us as being really stupid when we have our own tax dollars being paid to defend the very people we're charging with a crime. They're not spending their money in their illicit goods or the illegally gained goods or money. They're not spending their resources. We're spending our resources, taxpayers' dollars, to defend the very people. So this is why the Constitution has to be reformed and why we need to start really dealing with these matters, because it makes no sense. Makes no sense whatsoever. We have to decide, do we have an intelligentsia within the Jamaican population or culture that are willing to really speak up, stand up, come up with solutions? And I said, we don't have to come up with everything. We can look at other countries, what they did, how they've curbed corruption, how they're fighting it. Simply infuse that into our Constitution. Make the Constitution the general body of laws that govern this country, so that when you go to court, as I said to you before, no judge can get up and say, oh, we're ruling this way. If the Constitution said this is how it's supposed to go, then that's how the judge has to rule, until we have another constitutional amendment or challenge. Define it in simple terms. No ambiguity, no interpretation. We take the time to fix our Constitution in the way that it must work. I want to thank you. I had to say all of this. Hopefully it makes a difference. Hopefully, you stand up and start reaching out to other people and making a difference. We have agencies of government operating according to rulings from the court, operating illegally. The law enforcement knows about it, government knows about it, the people know about it, agencies that represent workers in Jamaica know about it. But I still see these agencies like the NHT and the real estate board, they're still operating. But according to rulings by Justice Ty, which was affirmed by the appeals court, any agencies that are operating on illegalities are operating illegally and must cease and desist. And the illegalities we discussed before, so I won't go back into it, but you must insist that we fix our country. If we have agencies of government and government officials committing crimes and getting away with it, are functioning nonetheless, no suspension, no without pay, we're still paying them, rewarding them. What are ordinary people out there going to be doing? They know this. People know this. They're going to commit crimes as well and figure, well, those people are getting away with it. Why shouldn't I? Thank you. Have a great weekend. I probably won't talk to you again. I said probably, depending on the commentaries I hear on YouTube if I get a chance to listen. But we need to act. Maybe a lot of you don't realize it now, But I've been filing a number of lawsuits against these agencies and government officials. Even if it doesn't come up for hearing, it's in the system and it's there because now, again, we can point to it and say, what happened to this case? Court of Appeal, Supreme Court, the Chief Justice, why isn't this case being set for trial or being heard? Because now they have to answer to the people. And it's further evidence that we need a reforming of the court system. No Chief Justice or registrar should dictate or determine when a matter comes up for hearing. There should be established protocols and rules that say you file it today, it comes up for hearing in 6 weeks or 3 weeks. A precise date is set the day you file it. And so we could move this country forward. Thank you. As I've always said, pull the people you have close to you, who you love, who you care about, hug them. Realize that you standing up and being a part of the solution, you help to fix it for all of us. Hug yourself, hug them, and realize that you are as important as anybody else. Thank you. And again, Mr. Bolt, seriously now, if your attorneys don't know what to do, tell them to give me a call. I can give them strategy. Alright? Sue them people in and outside of Jamaica. Make them start spending their money. The Jamaican people must start speaking up, and bloggers, please speak up about the Attorney General who has been taking the taxpayers' money to defend crooked politicians and public officials in the Jamaica courts, where a lot of the times the very corrupt court turns them loose. Anyway, I want to thank you. Have a great weekend and talk to you soon. Bye now.